Okay, so today we've talked about already like why we are creating a little bit more of a complex list, and we've kind of looked at like not disorganized lists, but right, the idea of what makes a list a little bit better. Now, scary part about today is we have no starter projects, so we're just starting from a blank canvas, and we're kind of doing it opposite from what we've been doing. So before we were building things and being like, oh, hey, look, this is a polygon. Let's put all this program that we created, all these code snippets into this idea of polygon. Instead, now we're thinking from globally to more of a local. So we're thinking like big picture. What does it mean to be a quiz item? And then how can I apply that idea of what it means to be a quiz item to different lists, right? And to make sure that when I run my program, I ask the user a question from my list, and then I see if the answer that they give matches the answer that corresponds to that quiz item. That's a lot. Okay, so we're going to start building it today, but we're not going to finish it. We're just going to say like, hey, what does it mean to be a quiz, and what code will I need in order to put this together? Okay, and then you'll see it come together, and you'll see some of the value of doing it this way. Okay, I always like to work with a buddy. Okay, if I don't have a buddy on my screen, I feel like the sprite is like intimidating. There's just, all by himself. Okay, so I'm gonna pick my polar bear here. He's gonna be my buddy. And in my script now, I want to think of like, what does it mean to be a quiz item, right? And that's the idea of data abstraction. Is I'm gonna first think of the procedure I need, the construct that I need. Now, in other programming languages, this is usually referred to as a class. Here, they call it constructors. So if you look at the BJC curriculum, this is really the only part of the lab that we're doing today. After doing uh, a bunch of other like lists and stuff you should have kind of explored. Here we're just constructing, and then we're making a selector. Okay, so in order to make a constructor, that means like we're defining what does it mean to be a question, right? A quiz question. So I'm going to make it an operator. And I'm going to make a reporter because I want to report back a list, right? So I'm going to call it quiz item. Okay, and click OK. And every quiz item needs a question. And every quiz item needs an answer. Now, before I go a little further on here, they do, for input name, there's this little arrow that they finally call your attention to. And you can make the input a specific data type. So you can make it a text, a number, you can leave it empty or open and let it be any type. You can make it a Boolean, or you can make it a list. And we'll talk later in the semester, later in the year, why we would want to do it, but we touch upon it here. So this, I'm expecting a text from the user, so I'm just going to put in a text, and I'm expecting, an answer, not from the user, from the programmer. Okay, now what I want to do is I want to report this question into a list. Okay, so I'm going to make this a list, and I'm going to say, hey, this question comes here, and this answer comes here. Okay, similar like we did with parameters, right? So not much has changed. Big thing is we have to start like, what is this? What does this mean? And then we're going to put it in there. Okay, so what that'll do is, nothing's happened because we made our own block. So what it does is it creates this quiz item with a question and an answer. You see that the answer block is a little bit different because it's expecting text. It's not going to really change my program, but if you are really concerned about that thing and you want this to be a different type, you can just change it if you want some uniform. It actually was starting to bother me, so I'm going to go ahead and change it to a to a text. Okay, so now I have like, hey, what does it mean to be a quiz? Now this helps other programmers, right? If they want to make a quiz, it's like, hey, buddy, you want to add an item to my quiz? You need to make sure you have a question. You need to make sure that you have an answer. It keeps it kind of organized. Tomorrow or next few days, we're going to talk about like bigger data sets, and why this is really important if you have a ton of data. Okay, so now I need to eventually gonna have to get those items and use them, right? So I'm gonna have to get an item from the quiz and be like, hey, this is my question, and then I want to get an item from this list, that's quiz item, and I want to say, hey, this is the answer, and I want to check the answer to what the user put in. That's the big idea of this whole code. But before I do that, I need to make two more blocks. Okay, I need to make selector blocks to get a question from the quiz item and from the list, and get an answer from that list. So I'm going to do kind of something similar. Okay, so I'm going to get answer. Okay, and I'm going to get an input. Okay, I'm going to just make this quiz question. Okay, and now here's where it's a little different. I want to get, because I have a 2-item list, right? The first item is going to be a quiz question. The second item is going to be the answer. So I want to report item 1 of quiz question. Okay, we're going to build out the rest. You're going to see kind of the building out the rest in the next one. Okay, so now following that same thing, okay, do same thing, but do it for quiz answer. Okay, see if you can do it like pausing the video, like pause the video at this point. See if you can do it on your own. And then, I'll obviously build it. What you could do is you could, duplicate it if you want. And I can just change this to get. Oh, what was I doing? That should be get question. What am I doing? Okay. I'll just have to change this. Get question. Sorry. Okay, and then get answer. I want item number 2 of, and I want to change this to get. I want item 2 of quiz questions, so that works. Okay, and then I want to be item 2. So now you kind of see when I click, right? It's saying inside a custom, expecting a list but getting a text. The question came up at item 2 of quiz question. So what this means is I haven't defined or said anything about like what is the list, right? So now is when we're going to start to see us build this together. Okay, so if I go to my I'm going to make a variable. Okay. Make a variable called quiz. Okay, and I'm going to set quiz to a list. Okay, and now instead of, you're going to see like benefit here. Okay, now instead of having to keep doing things over and over again, okay, now you're going to see I have my full list. So now if I put in these questions like, this is why, by the way, I did my other quiz the way I did. Who is the leading singer of One Direction? I don't know, I'm dating myself here. Okay, Harry Styles. Who is the highest selling rap artist of all time. Someone's gonna have to fact check me. I don't even know the answer. Let's go Kendrick Lamar. Okay, and let's say I'm gonna have to fact check myself because I don't even know if that's the right answer. So now you see how like it's a little easier to build my quiz if I'm the programmer, because I've already defined what it means to be a quiz. Now these other things still have get question. Those are still um, not working, and the reason why is because we're expecting a list in there. We're going to do that in our next lesson. Okay, so now I don't know, one more question. Who is the worst singer of all time? That one's an easy one. Mr. Rusbicki. Okay, so now you kind of hopefully are seeing like the value of doing it this way. So think about back to the beginning of the lesson and our exploration. Like what makes this easier? Like it's I have this quiz, I have what it means to be a quiz, and I have this quiz item 1 of 1. Okay, and now what I can do is I can now make sure that I get the question from this list here, right? So it is expecting a list, right? So I can get this question from the list, and from this idea of quiz question and quiz get this item from the quiz question and get this item from the quiz answer. Now what we're going to have to do, you're going to see, is we have to then define like what does it mean to get this question, but we'll do that later on. So hopefully you see like some of the benefit of constructing it this way, and then when we kind of develop our quiz, we're going to see some of the other benefits of building things in this manner. All right, I'll see you guys in the next video.